Hey everybody, Stu Smith here, going live again. Some reason I do not have my default set up on my microphone, which I just fixed. So sorry about that. Okay, so you guys got questions? Let's ask them. But before we do, I want to mention something about when you are considering a program, whether that is a program you buy in a book or a program that somebody is making online that is generic, an article or maybe a magazine. I mean, I used to do that all the time. I'd get magazines and do workouts when I was younger and just follow them. But you have to do this. You have to realize that these are not personalized programs for you and your capabilities, your facilities or your equipment, your time allowed. So you're going to have to make adjustments that work for you, and you need to be logical about them. So, um, for instance, like if you're doing this one, Navy SEAL Fitness, or you're doing a weight training one, right? You need weights for the second one. You don't need weights for the first one, but you need a swimming pool. But if you don't have a swimming pool, how can you alter it? You can do more running, you can do more swimming, or sorry, more biking or elliptical in replace of swimming. So those are things that you have to figure out. You also have to figure out, hey, what kind of weight do I need to do this bench press workout? Well, that also depends on you, right? If I had two different people, I'd probably start them off on two different weights. So there's no answer that I can give you on that, right? If you take a max 1 rep and then maybe do 50 to 60% of that, sometimes that's a good answer, but it also depends on the rep scheme. First question looks like Phoenix has not gone through all the videos on the YouTube channel because I have done several on swimming with fins. So keep looking. They're there. Done a lot of them. So let's see. Here's a question, another one with about fins. Let's see what this says. This says, okay, when swimming with fins, where'd it go? Just lost it. All right, I'll find that one in a minute. Do you think running ultra marathons before buds is beneficial? No. You will not run an ultra marathon at buds, period. So why would you run ultra marathons before buds? If you're wanting to be a marathoner, run marathons. If you're wanting to get through buds, there's a lot more to it than just running. And your running that you're timed to do is 4 miles timed runs fast. Does not take a marathoner to do that. If you're going to be an ultra marathoner, you're probably neglecting something else in your training, such as lifting, and a boat and a log will crush you long before running will at buds if you're capable of running an ultra marathon. So I don't think you need to do that. All right, here's that question I was looking for. When doing CSS with fins, should I stay on my side all the time? Yes. With fins, you cannot roll over on your belly very well. Otherwise, your feet will come out of the water. Yeah, exactly. You got to stay on your side with fins. Without fins, you can actually kick on your side and then rotate and glide on your belly and then get that good freestyle catch for your top arm pull if you want. And here's another question. I was wondering if you or Mr. Nichols or anyone know a group or person in the Miami area that teaches this type of training. I do not. You might want to ask Jeff on that one. Yeah, sorry. Getting to and passing buds with flying colors. What about it? Is there a question there? I've written an article called To and Through Buds. You should go see it. Stu Smith Fitness. Click the article side and just scroll down. There's a huge answer on that one for you, Trevor. If I join the PT club, should I also join the online fitness program too? No, you don't need to do both of them. You do either one. Online PT club gets you plenty of what you need. I'm moving up from South America, so I have no idea and have no lay of the land or any connections with anyone. Well, just like many of us in this journey, is you start training by yourself even. I did. I found a friend who wanted to lift weights, so I lifted weights with him. I found a friend who wanted to run, so I ran with him. I found a swim buddy who really liked to swim and got me better at swimming. I swam with him. And then all four of us would go out and hang out in the evening. So I would work out with 3 people just about daily, and each of them had a different specialty that helped. So sometimes you rely that way. Sometimes you don't have that availability and you just do it yourself. I'd rather see a self-motivated person figure it out versus having to have someone there motivate them to train every day. Now, it is nice to have a group of people like-minded that you can train with. They will push you harder, but sometimes you don't have that. Sometimes you don't have all the answers. Sometimes you have to figure it out. But 30 years ago, there were none of these type of capabilities, with communication, and there were no books on it. You just figured it out. You knew what BUDS was. It was a PST to get into it, and then it was 4-mile timed runs and 2-mile ocean swims and enduring log PT and boats on your heads for a little while. You prepared for that, right? It really isn't rocket science, right? But there are smart ways to program and dumb ways to program, and you can hurt yourself if you're not careful. But there's plenty of information online. You just need to go and search it. In fact, my first recommendation for you is to go to StuSmithFitness.com, click that article's link, and scroll down for about the first 10, 15 articles, and you will see a whole bunch of information there that will set you on your path. Depending, no matter what you want to do, all tactical jobs, but I have a few specific in there for BUDS prep. All right, let's see. For low impact cardio on the bike, do I go for distance or time? Any suggestions on time and distance? I typically like doing something challenging, like Tabata intervals. So it's a 20-second sprint, 10-second easy. Do that for a series of 10, 15 minutes. Then I like doing a pyramid where every minute the level of resistance on a stationary bike gets harder every maybe 1 or 2 levels every minute until you can't pedal and keep it at like 80 RPMs. And then you just come back down in reverse order. So that can probably take you another 20 minutes. But I would either do this. I would get really fast workouts for 10 to 15 minutes or challenging workouts that build up some intensity every minute on the minute, and then come back down for about 20, maybe 25 minutes. So you can mix those together, or you can do them separately on different days. So what's the best way to increase your VO2 max, and how often does it take? Best way, I don't know. You may have to Google that one. I typically do it with a variety of cardiovascular activities, running, swimming, biking typically. So triathlon style training helped me a lot. Working hard. So one day might be an interval paced run where I'm doing a lot of fast paced runs and sprints. Another day may be a goal paced run where I'm focusing on 6 or 7 minute mile pace, depending on my distances. And then another one may be a little bit longer distances. So, and just rotate through that 5-6 days a week, go through a little cycle. All right, so here's a good question. Let's see what this. How would you advise a tactical athlete to train and operate in their profession? Let me see, where'd that go? Tactical athlete to train and operate in their profession, in this case, the military, having experienced shoulder dislocation or similar injury. Um, Well, you got to baby your shoulder, obviously. Hopefully, you've recovered from it. I mean, depending on what you're trying to get through, you're definitely may have to suck up some pain, which can be very challenging. I had a buddy of mine that made it through buds, and he would occasionally dislocate his shoulder throughout first phase and have to pop it back in. And then, next 2 hours, we're doing log PT and he's sucking it up. So, can you do that? Yes. Do I recommend it? No. It's very, very challenging. But if you're in one of those situations where you have to, then you have to. But I would use physical therapy style exercises every day. So bands, internal, external rotations, lightweight shoulder workouts. If you do a Google search called lightweight shoulder workouts, you'll find a really nice series of exercises that I like to do. For my shoulders. I've been doing them for over 20 years with 5-pound dumbbells, and it's phenomenal. In fact, I have a YouTube video on it. If you go to my YouTube channel and just type in Stu Smith lightweight shoulder workout, you'll find it. Good morning. Let's see. What are your suggestions for guys trying to apply for buds with a bad eye vision? Well, you got to fix your eye vision. Otherwise, you're not going to get in. You need to get PRK or LASIK and fix that eye vision. And then it's a 6-month wait. So, I mean, I think that's a good thing because it gives you 6 months more months to train. Does depth perception matter? Yes, evidently it does. You have to pass that depth perception test too. I'm not sure if there's a waiver for that or not. But yes, depth perception is also one of the tests. How do the different cardio options affect each other? Does swimming and biking transfer well over to, say, running? Well, I will say this. It's hard to get into swimming shape without swimming. I have seen many great runners suck at swimming, even if they had the technique down. It's a little bit different. Swimming shape's different than running shape. Biking shape's different than running and swimming shape. So do they transfer over? To a degree, but like to the level you need to be at for really crushing PT tests, it takes some time. Like you can't just go crush a run at, let's say you do an 8:30 mile and a half and expect to be 30 seconds, 40 seconds faster in your combat swimmer stroke, having not done any swimming. It doesn't work that way. At least not from my experience. I haven't seen it. But yes, typically as you get all your techniques down and things are working, they all complement each other. But I would never say that to do one is going to make you better at another. I haven't seen that transition over very well. I have seen this though. When I was injured, and I've seen many injuries do this, they couldn't run. So all they did was bike and they had to lay off of running. And then for about a month, let's say 6 weeks. And then they got back into running and they were able to be faster when they started back up again for like mile pace. And then they progressed logically into longer runs, but they were actually in better running shape, believe it or not. So can you wear contacts at buds? No, you cannot. Would running an ultramarathon, didn't you just ask that? Let's see. Would running an ultramarathon be beneficial for mental toughness? Yeah, we have some guys here that just ran the 100-miler recently, and I think they did it in 30 hours, which is pretty good. But at the end of the day, I was like, why? It's just boring. Run that much. Yeah. Are you in your head a lot? Sure. Will it help you build mental toughness? Sure. But it will also do? It'll break your hips. You're likely, like one guy now has a broken foot because he just ran 100 miles, right? He's not running for the next 6-8 weeks. So is it worth it? That's what you have to ask yourself. Are those ultra marathons worth it? There's many ways to build mental toughness. You don't have to break your hips and legs and bones to do it. I always said this, there's a fine line between mental toughness and stupid. And when you start breaking yourself, that is stupid. And then now you can't train at all. Now, getting through pain and is different than injuring yourself. We all have to suck up pain. And I get why you are thinking an ultra marathon will be good, but a marathon will be good too. You know what? A 10K will be good. Run it as fast as you can. You talk about pain, that sucks. See if you can run a 10K at a sub 6 mile, right? That's going to suck. Training for that's going to suck. I'd rather see you do that. That's more useful than 100 miles. You're never going to run 100 miles in military training, spec ops training, but you will run 4 to 6 miles fast. I promise you that. What's the outlook in terms of CTE, TBI for SEALs exiting the service? Large majority exiting with semi-permanent symptoms over blast pressure. You know what? It happens. It happens a lot. A lot of shooting blast pressure, just from regular weapons or sniper weapons have been an issue. They're getting smarter with it. And, they're finding ways to help, but it is a issue. It's something you need to consider. Let's see. When swimming, I constantly lose track of my laps. Any tips on keeping track of it just as fast with fins as without fins? Yes, that is. Yeah. In fact, here's what I do. One, if you can keep your swims for 500 yards at a yard per second, that's an 820, 500 yards, 500 seconds. It's easy math. Okay. Then when you put on a pair of fins, see if you can do the same thing. Yard per second. That's your goal pace. Try to keep it at that. And then whenever you look at your watch, you can actually say, oh, I've been swimming for 10 minutes. That's 600 seconds, right? That's 600 yards. So think of it that way. Try to keep your pace at a yard per second, and that is easy. The other way I keep track of laps is I actually make a pyramid out of it. So I'll do 1 lap, and I try to keep it at 50-second pace. But sometimes, with the 1 lap, I'm at 42 seconds. So I get 8 seconds rest. So that's my interval, 50-second interval. Then I do 2 laps, right? And I do 3 laps, keeping it a yard per second. And if I'm faster than a yard per second, then that's my rest period for that short interval. Might only be 5 seconds, but that's my rest period. And I'll just go right on that time. And you can do the math in your head. It's not that hard, or you can write it all down before you go in there and realize where you need to be. But then you go 4 laps, 5 laps, 6 laps, 7 laps. I go all the way up to 10, and that's 55 laps, which is a great workout. I think that's, what is that? A little over 2,500 yards. So, yeah, it's fun. It's a good workout. Other day, I did 1 to 10 back down to 1, which is 100 laps, 5,000 yards. Took me about an hour and 40 minutes. So, 100 yards in 100 minutes. Or whatever. No, it wasn't right. 100 laps in 100 minutes. Yeah. How professional are Singaporean Navy divers? Well, I've never worked with those guys, but we did have 2 Singapore guys go through BUDS with us, and they went back to Singapore, and they were good. I enjoyed them. Do I accept stupid questions? Yes. That's what today is about. Happy Friday, taking stupid questions. On Instagram, I don't know if you guys noticed, I posted a Kermit meme, and I'm just taking stupid questions over here. So they've already started asking, but they're not stupid. I mean, some of them are. Ask me if I've ever seen Bigfoot, but you know how that is. Hardest evolution you did in buds. That's a good one. I think if anybody says Hell Week, they're not lying. I mean, there's nothing quite like a 120-hour evolution. And then there's multiple evolutions within that 120 straight hours. But I would say that challenged me significantly. I thought underwater knot tying was pretty challenging. Just breath hold and then think and tie a knot. And wasn't like one of those failure things. But I'll be honest with you, the thing that challenged me the most was a weekly event. Every week for 26 weeks, you had to run 4 miles, and you had to do it fast and in boots and pants. And that was my weekly challenge. Now, Hell Week number 1 for me, running 4 miles, in a competitive standard, was definitely my challenge. Swimming, no problem. PT, no problem. O course, no problem. Running 4 miles timed was definitely a problem. But that was my weakness, and I knew it going in. I knew that was going to be my gut check. So tried to make that less of a gut check, and I was able to. And like I said, I never failed to run until I got injured in third phase, and then I couldn't finish the run. Then I got rolled about 4 or 5 weeks before graduation, which kind of sucked. But that's all right. I still finished. Just a few months later. What are your thoughts on testosterone therapy? I'm assuming that's what it is after 40. Haven't tried it. It's when I'm dealing with hormones, I'm definitely want to do that under doctor supervision, but even then I'm not sure I'm ready for that. So, do I need it? Probably a little low T. Let's see. Would you say running is the most important out of all the modalities in the PST? I think they're all important, and I think they're all challenging depending on the person. For someone who grew up running cross country or running track, the mile and a half won't be challenging at all. May not even be considered important to that person. To me, it was considered important, and that's what I had to really focus on training hard for. And also the swim. PT is never an issue. But some people who may be great runners and swimmers have a hard time with the PT. We all have our weaknesses, that's for sure. Have I ever worked with Air Force Special Tactics officers? So, what are they like? I never have worked with those guys. I know a few because we've trained some before they left, and they're great guys, great Americans. I think, yeah, if you're serving, you're going to be respected by guys that are also serving. As long as you're a good guy and you do your job, I wouldn't worry about whether you're an Air Force guy or Marine Raider or Navy SEAL or Green Beret. Do your thing and do it well. Who cares what other people think? How did you prepare for buds? Like, how would you make your workouts and how many times a day? How did I do it? Very similar to how I write in these programs. I worked out a couple hours a day. When I transitioned out of football and powerlifting, I started kind of training like a triathlete and just doing calisthenics for quite a long while. So my workouts looked like those. Look like a triathlete with calisthenics. I just had to turn into an endurance guy and muscle stamina guy. And then after that, it was run and swim every day and upper body calisthenics 3 days a week, lower body calisthenics or weights 2 to 3 days a week. And I'd rest one. And I still do that. In fact, here's a good question. Do I still adhere to the same type of periodization as in Maximum Fitness? This is a 52-week program, Maximum Fitness. And I wrote that 2000 probably, maybe 2001. Yes, I have been doing that type of periodization for 20 years. In fact, if you do a Google search, 20-year periodization Stu Smith, you will see how that has evolved over the last 20 years. So this program here is more of a bodybuilding hypertrophy cycle in the winter lift, but there's still the calisthenic phase. There's the hardcore calisthenic and running, swimming progression. And then there's the lifting phase. And that lifting phase is a little more geared towards building your body up. However, this one, tactical strength, is more of a powerlifting phase in the winter. So, yeah, so it has evolved quite a bit. I would say, depending on the person, you either need to do a hypertrophy phase or you need to do a powerlifting phase during the winter, while maintaining your calisthenics and cardio up, not necessarily hitting really high peak mileages per week, but just maintaining them, but working on your strength and power during that winter phase. That's how I've set it up. In fact, I'll put a link in the description below for how I do the periodization. But yes, I have been doing that cycle for 20 years. I have been teaching people for 20 years, actually 21 years now. It was funny because one of my guys retired from the Navy who first did that over 20 years ago. And he said he did it through his whole career. And I couldn't believe that it had been 20 years. I hadn't really thought of it like that. So he reminded me that I'd been coaching that way for over 20 years and doing it myself. Do I write letters of recommendation for those who train with me? Yes, I do. And that's, to be honest with you, that's one of the reasons why I don't charge here. Because I never want a letter recommendation. Anybody who's receiving that letter recommendation think that someone paid for that letter of recommendation. So it is just a thing I've been doing now for over 20 years, training people for free here in Maryland. Let's see. I feel decent at the CSS, combat swimmer stroke, but my breathing sucks. I can't get more than 2 or 3 laps without stopping and catch my breath. That is called being out of swimming shape. That's all that is. If you might have a good form, might have a good 50, but you know what? You can't do it for 500. You're just out of swimming shape, and you need to get into swimming shape. There's 2 things to master the CSS for the PST. You need to learn how to do it properly with technique and efficiently, and then you need to get in shape to handle it for 500 yards. So there's a workout that I posted. In fact, it's if you go to StuSmithFitness.com, click the articles link, you'll see an article about the PST running and swim. There's a workout in there called the 50-50s, and it's great. You do that 5-6 times a week. I promise you will get in shape within 3 to 4 weeks for the CSS. But if you're going to get in shape for the 500, you should be swimming at least 1,000 to 1,500 meters a day to get in shape for the 500. What do SEALs transition to after military life? Many things. You just take a look. A lot of them are entrepreneurs. A lot of them are, I know, stockbrokers. I know doctors. I know lawyers. We have a couple astronauts. But anything they want to, right? Most of them, some get into real estate, some do other things. It's whatever their interests are. So, should I stop taking supplements? Just pre-workout and post-workout whey protein before going to buds. Well, you can't do it at buds, so you might as well get used to it. So, let's see. See what I got a question here. So, from your diagram on defining the tactical athlete, where do you start in terms of initial training? I would start where your weaknesses are. So, you look at that diagram and you can see that there's a muscle stamina and endurance component. There is a strength and power, speed and agility component. There is a flexibility, mobility component. And then there's like a job skills component, right? All of those kind of work together to build the tactical athlete and build a tactical athlete with longevity. That's the key. So I would suggest start where your weaknesses are. That's what I did. After I finished powerlifting and football stuff, I got right into triathlon and calisthenics training only. So I would really work hard on calisthenics and running, swimming, biking, and progress logically with the running. Didn't do too much too fast. Didn't have any shin splints or knee pains or injuries like that. Because I took baby steps along the way. And then from there, through a cycle of lifting in and, here and there, but mainly run, swim, and bike and calisthenics for me was my weakness. So I had to really focus on that upper right-hand corner, endurance and muscle stamina. So I would suggest it depends. Depends on where you are. Let's see. Have I heard of Wim Hof breathing? Yes. Does it make sense to you? And you know what? I hadn't heard of Wim Hof before I was 40 years old. I got through 40 years of life without it. Is it making me better because I try it every now and then? I don't know. I'm not trying to hold my breath for 5 to 10 minutes. I don't personally have a need to do that. But breathing is great. I mean, I learned how to breathe in my 40s, to be honest with you, properly with box breathing to really relieve stress and anxiety and help you go to sleep. When your mind's distracted, you can kind of gain focus and focus on your breathing and actually fall asleep, and versus being up all night worried about stuff. So breathing can do that for you. So find a way to breathe. It doesn't have to be Wim Hof's method. It can be another method. Another question here. Should I learn karate? Or should it be karate? I don't know. It's up to you. Jiu-jitsu, karate, wrestling, boxing. I think any of the combative forms are great to have a skill somehow. I think any of them will make you better. Have I ever gotten to talk to David Goggins? No, I do not know David Goggins. Would like to. Seems like he is a beast. How cold does it get during SDV dives? Very cold. It doesn't take long before you start shivering, especially if the water's 50 degrees, even in your wetsuit or dry suit. You will be cold if you go SDVs. Speed and agility are definitely my weakness, with endurance as a close second. Yeah. So those are going to be two different cycles, really. I mean, you can throw in some speed and agility on some leg days if you want. Doesn't have to be, none of this stuff is world-class type level training. So just get good at it, practice it, so you know how to change directions without snapping something. Have I ever had a chance to speak with Johnny Kim? No, I do not know Johnny Kim. I have talked to Mario Romero, who is a really good guy who also works at NASA. In fact, if you go into the StuSmithFitness.com articles page, you'll see a page in there called the Two Through and After podcast, where I actually I've interviewed a lot of SEALs, interviewed a lot of special forces guys, a couple firefighters in there. And it's neat to hear their journey of what they did in order to get into and through and after their training and what they're doing. Mario was a real good one. I liked his story. All these guys have a really neat story. Do a lot of people fail the 50-meter underwater swim? How do you prepare for it? No, not a lot of people fail that, believe it or not. In fact, at the time of my personal class, when we did it, we had about 100 people at that time, and all 100 people passed it. Now, we graduated with 28. So that tells you that the 50-meter underwater swim is not that big an issue to worry about. 4-mile timed runs, pool comp, other things like that will get you kicked out. Being stupid will get you kicked out. How do you know when you're overtraining a body part? Well, it hurts, for one, but two, you really overtraining a body part is kind of odd because you just have a overall overtraining sense, and you need to Google overtraining symptoms, and you'll see everything from muscle pain to lack of motivation to train, grumpy mood, just a variety of stuff, decreased performance, all of that. How would you balance strength training and running? I've written a couple articles on that. You can find them if you Google them, but you need to figure out what your focus is. Like, you're not going to get stronger while you're trying to run further, right? If you're putting in 40, 50 miles a week, which I don't recommend anyway for any of this, you're not going to get stronger. You're probably, if you're strength training as well, you're not going to get faster. So strength training works really well if you're trying to get fast and work on some agility stuff. If you're working on 1.5 mile pace, that's okay. But anything over 3 or 4 miles, and when you're mixing that kind of running along with a strength training workout that day, you're probably not going to see big increases in strength nor big decreases in your time. However, you can, once you've built up your strength and you've built up your running, you can maintain them very well together. So there's an article that speaks about that journey. And so that's why I do a strength training cycle with very little running in it. And then I do a high rep calisthenics cycle with a lot of running in it. You have 2 cycles. In fact, these 2 back to back are like 2 and through right there. Calisthenics and running and swimming, calisthenics, running and swimming, along with a lot of weights. So that's actually a winter cycle, fall, winter, spring cycle in that weightlifting cycle. So that one works really well to mix the 2 together in a way that's not going to eat up all your strength, and it's not going to slow you down with your running. All right, a couple more questions and I got to bail. Been at this for 40 minutes now. Should I start an optimization program midway through the year or wait until the beginning of the year to start? I'm not sure what you mean by optimization. Do you mean periodization? You can start periodization anytime you want. And it could be any cycle that you want. Like, it doesn't have to be a winter lift cycle. It doesn't have to be a summer run swim cycle, right? It can be just the opposite. You could do your calisthenics and cardio in the winter if you want. Remember, some of these guys that are in the Southern Hemisphere, it's summer in the months of December. So, I don't have a set time on that. I just prefer it that way. I do a spring kind of a 50-50 mix of calisthenics and weights because I'm coming out of a winter lift cycle. So I'll do a winter lift cycle. Spring is kind of like a 50-50 mix of calisthenics and weights. And then the summer is just killing it with run, swim, calisthenics. And, we'll use sandbags and stuff. So it's not like it's not doing resistance training. And then the fall is very similar to the spring, just in reverse, because we're starting to add weights back to the equation and decrease the running a little bit, whereas we were increasing the running in the spring. And then the winter, we drop the running down significantly, but fast. We're not doing 5-6 mile runs anymore. We're doing really short 1.5 2-mile runs, but fast. And we're lifting harder. So that's a good way to mix in the running. If you're going to mix in running, make it short and fast. When you guys in Maryland start transitioning from winter lift to more running, when it's no longer winter, which here in Maryland might be late February, early March. Yeah. Usually by March, we're transitioning out of the winter lift phase. Let's see. Any advice for managing mental stress? You know what? I wrote an article on stress. You can find it. Using fitness to help with stress, using breathing to help with stress. Just Google Stu Smith combating stress, and you'll see a good article on that. What is the best way to take a rest day? I like to rest day one of two ways. I either do some mobility work where I get on my stationary bike in front of my TV, very relaxed, don't even break a sweat, just get the blood flowing a little bit. And then I stretch, do some foam rolling, do some massage tool stuff on any aches or pains that I've had during the week. And that's about it. I don't do a whole lot, or I do absolutely nothing other than just move around and stretch. So that's a good rest day for me. And take a nap if you can. So that's why I like it on Sundays. I typically take a rest day on Sunday because I will definitely take a nap middle of the day, maybe watch some football, take a nap. Would I recommend the Complete Guide Navy SEAL Fitness to a beginner lifter, beginner runner? Yeah, I do have a beginner section in there. There's actually a beginner intermediate section that builds up before the 12 weeks to buds workout kicks in. So, yeah. All right. So, last question. Hey, I just started swimming back in April after not swimming for about a decade. Got 11:45, 500. Okay. Could I bring that time down to 10-minute range, swimming 3 times a week? Sure. You could do that. I don't know how quickly you're looking to get it down to that amount of time, but you need to get on the 50-50 mix now. 50-meter freestyle, hard, like a sprint, and then 50-meter combat swimmer stroke at your goal pace. So if you're trying to get a 10-minute 500, that means you're trying to do a lap in a minute. So that's your goal pace now. So every time you go down and back in a 50-yard or 25-yard pool or meter pool, you need to be at a yard, 50 yards in 60 seconds if you want 10 minutes. That's your goal pace. Learn it, muscle memory it, get in shape for it for 10 laps of it. All right, that's it. 45 minutes. Wow, time flew. Yeah, I'm done. If you guys have any questions, just leave them in the comment section, or you can email me, stu@stusmith.com, if you don't want it to be on a public forum. Like I said, I have done a lot of articles over the years, either on military.com. Some of my most recent ones are on stusmithfitness.com, and click the articles link, and you will see plenty of articles on these very topics that you guys are asking questions about. You'll also see books and ebooks and programs and things like that too. So get on a program. That's the best advice for you right there. Get on a program. We'll see you. Stu Smith out.